Okay, hey everybody. Sorry I haven't made lots of videos lately with for the sky. I've been down with it. That's because my mom's computer wasn't working with the mic and stuff, and then I figured out that I could probably do my videos on Google Hangouts. So if you wanna listen to me if you want to listen to me tell the story live, you can if you want to. It's not a problem, and you can chat with me as well because it's in a group chat and all that stuff. So I don't mind. And anyways, well, anyways, it's time to get to the chapter. Hopefully this works anyway. Okay, here we go. And I hope this isn't laggy either, because this is making my internet so freaking slow, you don't understand. So I'll try my best. Okay, here we go. Chapter 6. I didn't know what to do now. I was scared. Why Meredith? Did I have no one I could trust now? This couldn't be happening. Slindy put a long arm on my back after Lana had left. Don't worry, Sky, he said. It will be fine. I couldn't help but shed a few tears, the red liquid running down my chin and staining my shirt. I couldn't care less. I mean, I was a creepypasta now, and it was kind of required to have blood on my clothes. Ben was sitting on my right, trying to comfort me. It was no use. How could they be so calm about it? Sky, please stop crying, said Ben, wiping the blood, or tears, whatever you want to call them, off my cheeks. I should stop crying. I was just being a wuss. Slindy! I heard Sally call from the living room. Slindy sighed as he stood up. He gave me a reassuring pat on the head. I thought it was silly, but hey, I wasn't going to be the first person to speak up to him. Please, Sky, hate seeing you like this, said Ben, as his head caressing my cheek after all the tears were wiped away. Although, I must say, the blood coming from your eyes looks extremely attractive on you. I smiled. I had to stop. It was going to be fine, just like they said earlier. It's about Meredith, Maya said. What about her? What happened? Is she alright? I hope nothing bad happened to her. Sky, let me talk, she said firmly but kindly. I let her explain. Listen, Sky, you know how Meredith does all that witchcraft, right? She's an expert. Well, when I told her you were a creepypasta, she lost it completely. She started throwing things at me, told me to get out. She was devastated, like someone had died. Then what? I said, urging her to continue. She said you were her only friend, that she was always bullied and you were the only one there to protect her and make her feel better, that you were just being selfish. She swore revenge over all the creepypastas, including you. I raised my eyebrows. Meredith? My best friend? Swearing revenge against me for being what I am? She wouldn't do that. She wouldn't. She'd gathered people, told them stories, made them hate creepypastas. She's not going to stop until she's wiped out all of you. What? They're going to wage war on us? I said. They won't stand a chance. She shook her head solemnly. They're going to use magic. Dark magic. Potions, spells, hexes, everything they need to destroy you all. Now that they may have a chance at. the present. It is going to be fine. You have to believe me, said Ben reassuringly, his hand still placed on my cheek. I shook my head softly. But how are we going to stop them? We have no idea about the magic they use. Then we do it by hand, said Ben. You're going to start learning today. Don't let something like this ruin your morning. We can pick them off one by one. Trust me. I nodded, his words terribly convincing. I had to toughen up. I assumed Ben would think that, after my crying fit, I was in no shape to be a real creepypasta, but he wasn't thinking that at all. All he was thinking about was how much he didn't like seeing me so sad, and how he needed to make me feel better, because when I'm happy, he's happy? No, that's not right. But that's what I heard in his head. When she's happy, I'm happy, I heard. It was playing over and over in my mind when I realized how lucky I was to have such a good friend. He made me feel so much better. I tried to resist the urge, but I couldn't, and pulled him right into a tight and meaningful hug. His arms made me feel safe, and I wanted to stay in them forever, but I had to start to fend for myself. There was no one to stand up for me now. Of course there was, but what else could I tell myself so I'd get a little more serious about the whole thing? I needed to put a little effort into it, and the only way I was going to do that was if I learned that I could trust no one. It was just me and me alone. Ben's point of view. Trust me, I said. I knew somehow we were going to stop them, but now all that mattered was that I put my... When she laughed, I laughed. When she's happy, I'm happy. She nodded and looked at me. The red tears had stopped forming in her eyes, but I could tell she was worried sick for us. It touched me just how much she cared about us. Suddenly I felt her pulling me into a hug. I held her tightly as she exhaled slowly. At least I could reassure her. I moved my hand over the back of her head to her long dark locks. I twirled my fingers around a strand of her hair and let her fall. She didn't seem to want to let go any time soon. I let her take her time, but eventually she pulled away, staring at me with those big brown eyes of hers. The light was reflected into them, making them shine brighter than I had ever seen them. She started doing that thing I hate when she stared at the ground diffidently. I couldn't help but place my hand under her chin and lift up her face, her eyes meeting mine again. Please don't do that, I said. I want to see your face. She smiled. I can't help it. It's a habit. A bad habit, I added. She let out a tiny laugh and I nodded. I should go get ready. Slindy's taking me into the woods in a bit. Sky's point of view. I looked up at him and nodded. I couldn't help but stare at the ground. It was just something I did. His hand moved up and down my arm soothingly, and even though I had just pulled him into the tightest hug of all time, I wanted to hug him again, and again, and again. I just wanted to be with him, around him, near him. His smile made me smile, and his laugh was irresistible, and when he blushed at Jack's stupid jokes, it was the most adorable thing I've ever seen. I was about to say something when I remembered Slindy was going to teach me something first. I should get going. I should go get ready, I said. Slindy's taking me into the woods in a bit. He nodded sadly, and we both stood up, me heading out of the door of the living room while Ben was... Well, I have no idea. I didn't turn around. I walked up the stairs to my room and changed into some clothes I thought were appropriate. A tank top with a black jacket, some dark trousers and sneakers. Comfortable enough. I didn't really care how I looked that much. I took out my hairband, letting my hair fall over my shoulders and down my back in loose curls. I was just about to head out of the bedroom when I stopped, turned around, fetched the box I had under my bed when I first got here, and found a knife. It was a very beautiful knife, perfectly shaped, perfectly sharpened, very shiny, carvings on the handle. I think it's okay to say that, along with Ben, I fell in love with the knife at first sight. I took it and hid it in my jacket, just in case I would need it. Never hurts to be prepared. I was shoving it in my jacket as I hopped down the stairs, Slindy waiting for me at the door. "Ready to go, Sky?" he asked me. I was just about to answer when I heard a wolf whistle coming from the living room. "Look who's all dressed up," said Jack. I looked at my outfit and back up at him. "I ain't dressed up, I just threw something on that I thought was okay," I answered. Slindy rolled his so-called eyes. "Let's get started. We don't have all day," he said, guiding me out the door. Even though I was outside, I could hear everyone commenting on how I looked. I wanted to go back in there and give them all a piece of my mind, but I couldn't do that. They were guys. It was the way their brains functioned. I kept walking with Slindy until we got to the Slender Woods. I paid attention to where we were going, knowing that memorizing the ways was the least I could do for a start. Skipping lessons, it's just going to be boring. Slindy held the door open for me as I entered the house again. When I went to the living room, a few people turned to stare at me. "How'd it go?" Miss P asked, sitting on the couch with Sally on her lap. Slindy sat down on his chair. "Sky did very well for her first time. She needs practice, of course, but she's a fast learner." I mentally sighed in relief. "That's great. And do you find it fun?" She turned to me. "Yeah, I find it really fun. It's great," I said, nodding my head. "Good. What are you doing tomorrow?" she asked. Jeff, who was sitting on the couch next to them, smirked. "I'm taking her out," he asked. Oh, how I wanted to wipe that smirk off his face. "Never mind him, Sky." Miss P raised her eyebrows, acting interested. Jack and Masky looked at Jeff curiously. "What, you going to slit some throats together?" Jack asked. "Maybe." Jeff shrugged, the wide grin still plastered across his face. I rolled my eyes, but I had to smile. Somehow, since my dad had killed Jeff was determined to get me to kill someone. I wasn't that eager, but if I had to. "Do you guys ever stop playing video games?" I asked, positioning myself on the couch next to Jeff, while Ben and Jack were playing a game. Ben turned to look at me like I was going crazy, and I held my hands in defense. "I do," said Jack. "Ben can't live without them." "Of course I can't," Ben protested. "I simply watched them argue. They were like brothers arguing over something. It was amazing." "Sky, come play." I took a controller and started to play. I mindlessly went through the game, my head somewhere else completely. What was that? What did—" Ben stuttered as I won him. I laughed and shrugged, Sally Capping and Jeff were probably just glad Ben didn't get the victory for once. "I want to play," Masky whined. I decided to have a bit of fun. I stared hard at Jack's controller. It flew out of his hand and landed on Masky's lap, but turned to look at me grinning. Ben turned to look at me grinning. "What the? Slindy, did you do something to the controllers?" said Jack. What do you suppose I did?" Slindy replied. Jack gave him an "I don't know" look, and I tried to hold in my giggling fit. Eventually, Ben started laughing, and as I said before, his laugh makes me laugh. So we were both laughing so hard, with the others looking at us like complete lunatics. I eventually calmed down and took a few deep breaths, Jack looking at me confusingly. "What is it?" he asked. Ben explained what I had done, and their faces set off set us off again. They were just amazed. Unfortunately, Ben had told them about the telepathy as well, so they were careful about their thoughts. "That is just awesome!" sighed Masky. The rest just nodded their heads. I smiled. I was just about to start I was just about to stare at the floor again, when I remembered what Ben had said to me. So I held my head up high and smiled. Ben smiled back at me. I could tell he noticed. "What's for dinner?" Woody suddenly spoke up. Um, Pasta? Mrs. P said. Obviously it was something she just got from the back of her head right now. "Sky, can you make me your special sauce?" he asked me. "Please," she said, dragging it out. Everyone else started agreeing. I had told them about a special pasta sauce my sister had taught me, until I learned to add something else, something that made it ting. I slapped my hands against my legs. "Okay, fine," I said. After a bit more games, I had to start making the sauce. The kitchen was mine, but the sauce was quite fast to make. Anyway, I turned on the heat on the cooker and took a pan, pouring some of the ingredients into it. I was mixing the sauce slightly when I heard someone come in. It was Miss P. "How's the sauce going?" she asked. "Mask is starving, but he wants the sauce so bad." "Aw," I said, laughing. "He's so cute." I took the sauce off the heat and poured it on the pasta. It looked delicious. My mouth could have been watering. I finished the dish by sprinkling cheese on top of it, all, which instantly started melting. Me and Miss P carried the plates of food to the table, earning a few cheers. "Yay!" I heard it. I heard it was coming from Matsky, who was already digging in. I tried to hold in my giggles as much as I could. Miss P leaned over to whisper something in my ear. "Wait till he finds out we got cheesecake for dessert," she said. "I'm tired. I think I'm going to turn in," I said, standing up and stretching my arms out. "Nice guy," they said. It became a kind of everyday joke for every time I go to bed. "Night, guys," I said, trudging up the stairs. I got changed as fast as I could, which was slow, being so tired, until I noticed something was missing. Oh, my bag was downstairs. I went down to get it. I found it in the living room, on the floor next to the couch. I picked it up, finding I had a few messages on my phone from Meredith, before she started to try and destroy us. My eyes started tearing up. Oh my gosh, I was so soft. But she was my best friend. We were so good together, so we could tell each other everything. And now she was completely against me. I didn't notice I was sobbing until I sat on the couch, wiping my cheeks again. I suddenly felt a reassuring arm around my shoulders as I turned to look at Ben. He was always there to comfort me. It was like he popped out of nowhere. I let my head rest on his shoulders, taking deep breaths. "I know how you feel about your friend Sky," he said. "But it's okay. All of us are always going to be here for you." "I know, thank you, but I just can't help feeling like she betrayed me. Like all through my life, I've never met anyone trustworthy until now, when she could ruin our lives." "But we won't let that happen," he said. I nodded and found my tears had stopped a long time ago. What if Lana wasn't trustworthy either? No, that's absurd. But still, I thought Meredith was trustworthy. I suddenly stood up, swinging the bag over my shoulder again. I was about to return to my room when Ben laid a hand on my shoulder, turning me around and quickly, all too fast, pressed his lips against mine. I was too surprised to do anything but didn't pull away. I allowed one of my hands to snake around his neck. Our lips fit into each other perfectly as I cinched him, smiling to the kiss. And no, he wasn't shorter than me. I was shorter than most people my age, but Ben was taller as well. Finally, I had thought this kiss was never going to happen. I was beginning to lose hope. I knew that I slept with a smile on my face that night. Jeff, time for you and Scott to get going, Slinny called to us. We both shut up and left immediately. I was excited, and I could tell Jeff was too. But I knew if I messed up, he wasn't going to let me hear the end of it. I stuffed the knife that I had taken a liking to in my jacket pocket again. My outfit quite similar to the one I wore when I was with Cindy, in dark colors, of course, were my favorite. I could never get my head around why Jeff wore white all the time. People could see him. We suddenly walked through the woods when I decided to break the silence. What am I going to do today? I asked. Jeff thought for a moment. I'll start you off with my kill, and we'll see after that. I nodded and we kept walking along when he put his hand to my mouth, telling me not to speak, and hid behind a bush. I quickly hid beside him and saw a boy, probably about my age or a few years older, wearing a light gray shirt and black sweatpants, with light brown hair and tan skin. I instantly recognized him as the school bully. Well, my bully. He made a certain part of my life so miserable I was about to start cutting, but I told myself there was no point and started hacking instead. My eyes widened. It surprised me that I could even remember his name. Oliver, I whispered to myself. Jeff turned to look at me. You know him? He asked. Probably know that I wouldn't want to kill him. He was always bullying me in high school. I hate him more than anything, I said. My blood began to boil and hatred was building up more and more inside of me. Oh, how I would have loved to repay him for all the pain he caused me inside. Then this should be fun, said Jeff, grinning cheekily from ear to ear. He crept around until he was behind a tree, only a few meters away from Oliver. He was starting looking around nervously. I followed Jeff quietly, careful not to let Oliver hear me. Jeff put a finger to his lips, signaling for me to be quiet, as he lunged at Oliver from behind and tackled him to the ground. He was squirming, but Jeff was too strong for him. He fixed him to the ground with an arm around his neck. Come on, Sky. Do it, Jeff said. Oliver stopped squirming. Sky? Where? I crept out from behind the trees, slowly taking the knife I kept out of my jacket pocket. I dropped to my knees next to him and held the knife high above our heads. No, Sky, he pleaded. Don't do it! I stared straight into his chestnut brown eyes. I remembered every bad thing he'd ever done to me, all the lunches he'd stolen, all the days he ruined, all the hurtful things he said. I remembered when I was just about to cut, but stopped. With each sad memory I recalled, I raised the blade higher and higher over his head. Then something clicked, and I instantly got a boost of confidence. I could see the fear in his eyes, without telepathy, and it was exactly that which made it all the more satisfying. Jeff's point of view. No, Sky, don't do it! The boy I guessed was called Oliver, begged her as she raised the knife over his head. He started squirming, but I was too strong for him. I healed him easily. I didn't want to rush Sky, since it was her first murder, and she could mess up if I did. I was just about to tell her to hurry up and do it, when I suddenly saw a glint of insanity in her eye. the same thing I felt when I killed my parents. She became confident and raised her knife high and brought it down hard to his chest. I grinned madly and stood up to admire her handiwork. She was looking at me excitedly, insanity dancing in her sparkling eyes. "That was fun!" she exclaimed. "Can we do it again?" I chuckled. "I think one kill is enough for you today. You're a natural, though." "Thanks," she said, and I began to walk home, Sky following closely behind me, blood staining her shirt. She still had the same glint in her eye as when she was stabbing Oliver just a minute ago. She shoved the bloody knife back into her jacket pocket. She was going to make a perfect killer. Sky's point of view. Death began to walk back with me, following him closely behind. I didn't want to think about what I had done, because I felt no guilt. I felt no pain. I felt excitement. Seeing the fear in his eyes and reading his terrified thoughts, it was also satisfying. I shook it off and carried on walking, noticing that my pace had dropped slightly. I heard voices coming from ahead. Familiar voices. "Get down here," Jeff whispered, and I dropped beside him, watching the people passing. It was Meredith and another person I recognized as her possible accomplice, Ash. It looks like they were lost. Good. They started to argue about which way to go, and they finally turned the opposite direction to head back. I signed, and me and Jeff quickly carried on with our way. "Was that Meredith?" he asked. I simply nodded. "At least they turned around," he added. "Yes, let's hope they get eaten by animals," I said. Jeff let out something between a sigh and a brief chuckle. We went in the house, and Jeff went straight to the living room, a huge grin on his face. Smile came to greet me, and I bent down and petted him a little. His tongue sticking out made me laugh. Masky and Nina came running over to me, holding their arms out and embracing me in a hug. I cracked up laughing. "What was that for?" I asked. "Your first murder," said Hoodie. "Yeah, she was awesome," Jeff said, watching us. Masky gasped at the blood on my shirt and started clapping. "Masky, what are you doing? Stop that!" I said, giggling. Jack came over and pinched my cheek. Well done, kiddo," he said. A very good job, I hear," Slendy said, walking up to me. "You learn fast." "Thanks, guys," I said, when suddenly we all heard a loud thumping sound, and a tree from the woods just outside the mansion tumbled to the ground. Slendy? Are trees supposed to be falling here?" I asked. Slendy looked out the window, startled, and everyone fell quiet. Ben, Sally, and Miss P came rushing to meet us by the door, and we all hurried outside to see what made the tree fall. Miss P, of course, had to stay inside the house with Sally. The tree was on the ground, the roots torn, but there was nothing else. "Sky, watch out!" I heard. I spun around to see what it was, but I didn't have time. Chapter 7. I turned around to see a truly hideous creature. Its matted brownish fur was in patches and certain parts of it were thin. I screamed as it jumped at me and dropped to the ground, which made the creature jump over me. It landed on the ground with a thump, spinning around to pounce at me again. Like there was no one else there. It pinned me down on the ground, crushing my arm with its heavy leg. I screamed in pain as it showed its sharp teeth. I closed my teary eyes as I heard this creature let out a shriek and rolled onto the ground beside me. I looked to see several stab wounds in the back in its back and side. Jeff. I rolled onto my side, much like the creature, clutching my arm as I groaned. I closed my eyes tightly as I felt arms wrap around me, carrying me into the room. I knew exactly who'd made those demons, and I knew they were more. I woke up later to find a small tray with a few snacks next to me. My arm was bandaged and put in a sling. I reached for a glass of water when I saw Ben at the end of my bed. He was worried, but did a good job of hiding it. "Are you feeling better?" he asked, moving up to bed till he was sitting next to me. I nodded, smiling. I took a few sips of water and sighed deeply. I sat up, but pain shot through my body. I forced myself up anyways. "Your arm should heal in about 1 or 2 days," he said. "Really? That's short?" "Being a creepypasta has its advantages," he asked me. He answered, grinning. Sorry. I giggled slightly. I shifted off the bed and stood up. I found myself in one of my favorite hoodies, which wasn't particularly mine. I laughed as I scanned my outfit. "How did I get into this?" I asked. Ben smirked, holding in his laughter. I rolled my eyes, opening the door. "Wait!" he whined. "Where are you going?" "Downstairs," I said. Just like that. Just like Ben, I thought. "Come on." He hauled himself off the bed and walked down the stairs alongside me. The boys in the living room suddenly turned their gazes all to me. I smiled amusingly, heading straight for Jeff, who was standing behind a chair about to sit down. I walked up to him and gripped him tightly with one arm I had functioning. It was required. He saved my life. He tensed up slightly, but eventually relaxed, putting one arm around my back. "Thank you," I whispered into his ear. He smiled. I let go and took a place next to Ben on the couch, my cheeks burning for some reason as his arm slid around my waist. Jeff's head quickly turned to the TV. "What's his problem?" "How are you now, Sky?" Jack asked me. "I'm fine, thanks." A sweet aroma filled my nose as I inhaled it slowly. I looked around the room, seeing who knew where the smell of cheesecake was coming from. Of course, I knew my answer in Matthew's head. I stood and rushed into the kitchen, taking out the cheesecake and slicing myself a piece. "You sure you want to do that?" Matthew's been pretty upset. I heard Ben's voice from behind me as I carefully laid my slice onto a plate. "I didn't finish it. There's plenty left." "He won't get upset," I said. "You want some?" He chuckled. "No thanks. He probably won't be anyway. I think he likes you. I think everyone likes you, actually." I raised an eyebrows and put the cake back into the fridge. "I'm that awesome?" I said jokingly. He nodded and kissed my cheek softly. "I feel bad for them, 'cause you're all mine." He guided me out of the kitchen. I held my plate up so that I couldn't eat with the other hand. I sat on the couch with the plate in my lap. Masky looked up at me. "Hey! I want some!" he whined. I shrugged. "Go get some then," I said. He practically jumped out his seat and flew into the kitchen. Oh, sorry. And, okay, go get some then, I said. He practically jumped out of his seat and flew into the kitchen. "So, do you like cheesecake?" he asked me. Masky returned with a large plate of cake, much like mine. "Oh," I love cheesecake. I could live on it, I answered truthfully. Masky just stared at me in amazement. Where have you been all my life? He asked. Ben shot him a playful but serious look. I laughed. Playing Velvet? I said, resting my head on Ben's shoulder, who stuck his tongue out at Masky. He started pouting. I had to poke Ben in the side to get him to stop picking on Masky. Give it up, you two, Jeff snapped. I finished the cake almost immediately and looked for something to do. I lifted a video game from the large pot next to the TV. I slipped the CD into the game system and brought myself a controller. Everyone was watching me intently as I did it, all sitting down on the couch. I simply laughed, seeing no one besides Ben had really gotten used to my telekinesis. I brought Ben a controller and Jack too. No, I'll pass, said Jack, refusing to pick up the controller. Aw, come on, Jack, please, I pleaded. He simply shook his head. Okay, I said, sadly, moving the controller to Masky, who picked it up halfway. We began to play, Masky and Ben arguing most of the time. I was just about to win Ben, but he won me and Masky eventually. How do you do that? Masky asked, for about the gazillion time since I've known him. Ben just shrugged. After we played a little more, I had a very normal dinner. It was time to turn in, by which time my body was aching quite badly, but I forced myself up the stairs anyway. I went into Ben's room to grab my clothes, which had been left at the end of his bed for some reason. I opened the door slowly, peeking my head inside. There was no one. I saw my clothes and crept inside to take them. Why don't you say? I jumped slightly as I heard Ben's voice from behind me. I spun on my heel and saw him standing by the door, which was now closed. I can't, I said shyly. Why not? He said, taking the clothes from my hands and laying them back down on the table. I gave him and plopped onto his bed, resting my head on the soft pillows. He chuckled lightly at how tired I really was. He lay down next to me, and I noticed my arm wasn't hurting as much as it was before. That's good. I snuggled into the covers and laid my head on Ben's chest, his arms wrapping around me. I never thought about how tired I was until it suddenly took over me. I let my eyelids drop and set off into a slumber. My eyes fluttered open to the sound of laughter. I looked up to see Masky, Hoodie, Jack, and Jeff standing over the bed trying to wake us up. Get up, you two! You've been sleeping for ages! Masky laughed. I groaned into my pillow and rolled over lazily, trying to cover my ears. They only laughed louder. What are you three laughing about? Ben said. Oh, nothing, they replied. Ben turned to me, giving me a, can you please read their mind and tell me what's happening? Look. I looked at them, one by one, same thoughts rushing through their minds. I shuddered at them. I'll tell you later, I whispered to him. Masky started shaking me. I groaned and tried to push him away, earning more giggles. Go away, I snapped. Ben, wake her up, Hoodie said. No, I don't want to, Ben whined. Can you guys keep it down so I can get some sleep? I yelled. Well, the closest thing to a yell I could manage, being so groggy I am. Whoa, I see, Leslie began. You obviously didn't get any sleep last night. I immediately sat up. Ben was shooting him a death glare. No, what's not that? I said. Yeah, sure, Jeff said. Don't push me, I snapped. So, it's true, Jack chirped. I never said that! I was fully awake now, thanks to those goofballs. I got out of bed, glaring at the four of them. "Now you've got me awake," I said angrily.
Who are you talking to?
We all we all headed downstairs, me and Ben lagging behind since we were still tired. Cindy turned to look at all of us as we entered. "What took you guys so long?" he asked. Jack was just about to open his mouth and say something when I cut him off. "Don't you dare!" I yelled. Okay, you remind me of Jeff," he said. "I'm not that bad, am I?" "Hey!" Jeff argued. "No, that's not how you do it." I took the wooden spoon from Jeff's hand and started mixing it myself. "It's missing something," Jeff said. "It's pudding," I replied. "Yeah, but it needs something more," he insisted as he took out random things and threw them into the pudding mixture. I cracked up laughing. "Who ever told you how to cook?" Jeff thought for a moment. "No one," he said. "I was teaching Jeff how to make pudding. Well, trying to, after he'd thrown in his random ingredients he started mixing it again." "Why do you make me do this?" he asked, sounding like a 5-year-old. "Just mix," I said. "Why don't you taste it now?" He grinned, holding up the spoon. I tasted the mixture and tried not to gag. I forced it down my throat, causing Jeff to start laughing. "What is in that thing?" I said, holding my throat in my hands. "It's disgusting." "Hey, you're the one who wanted to make me cook," he said defensively. I literally couldn't stop laughing. I still think it's missing something," he said, more to himself than to me. "How do you know? You haven't tried it yet," I said. He reached into the cupboard, grabbing some pepper. "That's going to make it even worse," I said, putting my face in my hands. "You're a failure at this." He chuckled, tilting the box, letting a little too much pepper fall out. Not that it was going to improve the flavor. "Now I think it's good," he said. I started laughing again, Jeff looking at me like some insane person. Masky strolled into the room, and seeing Jeff's pudding, he tugged the spoon from his hand. "Let me taste," he said, dipping the spoon into the ill-colored mixture. I was about to object when Jeff held up his hand to stop me. I could have sworn I saw Masky twitch, which set me off again. "Who the hell made this?" he asked, grabbing a glass of water, attempting to wash out the taste. I pointed to Jeff, who just grinned. Masky drank out 2.5 glasses before grabbing some grapes and shoving them in his throat, and rushing out the bathroom. I practically had a fit. "You're crazy," Jeff stated, as my face started turning red. "Look who's talking," I said, between giggles. Hoodie and Jack came in the room, looking confused. "Why did Masky run to the bathroom like he's gonna puke?" Hoodie asked. Jack caught sight of the pudding and walked over to sniff it. "Oh man, this is gross," he said, putting his hand to the place in his mask where his nose would be. Where his nose should be. "Says the one who eats kidneys," Jeff shot back at him. "Yeah, but this is just awful," he said, coughing a little bit. Hoodie looked over at the bowl, examining the brownish liquid. "What were you trying to make exactly?" he asked. "Pudding," I answered fast. It does kind of look like pudding. I was going to taste it," he said. "Vanilla pudding," I added, breaking into a fist of giggles again. "Oh." He sniffed it into the stuff and ran out of the bathroom, making Jeff laugh. Ben came in, watching Hoodie strangely as he ran out. "What's going on?" he asked. "You want to taste my pudding?" Jeff asked him. "Your pudding?" "Like you made it." Jeff nodded happily, and I had to warn Ben, "Don't taste it." I said. Ben shrugged and picked up the spoon. My retard sister. Oh my god. Sorry about that. Oh my. I'm sorry if you can hear in the background. She yells too much and gets so much. Okay, Dr. Story. I face palmed myself as he bent down to taste it, scowling as soon as it hit his tongue. He raced over to the sink, spitting it out and rinsing his mouth, making us both laugh again. I told you not to taste it. Jack can cook? I asked, fascinated. Ben nodded. And we found out that Jeff is very good with poisons. I laughed, making him smile. What about you? Is there something I don't know? I asked. Well, I'm pretty good at making traps, he replied. I raised my eyebrows. Traps? Like in the woods? He nodded. Show me, I said. Let's go then, he said, tugging my hand and leading me out the door. We were about 5 minutes into the woods when he stopped. He gathered a few branches and started making the trap with me watching him intently. After he had been making the trap for about 2 minutes, I started to hear a rustling sound behind me. I turned around when something lunged at me, making me fall to the ground. It was Meredith. Meredith? I said, scampering to my feet. She looked at me with daggers, hatred visible in her threatening stare. We heard yelling and turned our heads to see Ben fighting a tall, dark-haired boy who I didn't recognize. I heard some more yelling. It was Ash and Jeff? Jeff swung a knife at him, but he ducked and tripped Jeff to the ground. Ben was already holding the boy to a tree by his neck, kicking him repeatedly. Ash was just about to pull out a knife when I ran at him and kicked him in the back, snatching the knife out of his hand. He turned and was about to throw a punch at me, but Jeff stopped him. Eventually, Jeff was facing Ash to the ground, and Ben's opponent was already on the ground, coughing up blood. Meredith was about to burst from anger right about now, and I smirked at her stubborn expression. I hate you, she spat. For some reason, that didn't surprise me, even if it was coming from my best friend. Well, ex-best friend. I can't see why, but okay, I replied. Because you left and ran away when I needed you the most. I needed your support. It was obvious you didn't give a damn. And then you became friends with these beasts. Jeff and Ben were glaring at her comments, and I had just about enough. I charged at her and punched her against the tree, holding my knife to her neck. Say that again, I growled, pushing the knife to her neck, making blood trickle down her collarbone. I dare you. She grinned at me. Beast, she said. I was just about to slit her throat when she took out a glass bottle from her pocket and threw it to the ground. The bottle broke, the black liquid seeping into the grass. That was probably the most dangerous potion she had made. I was going to slit her throat anyway when her eyes widened before me as she screamed. Ash, no! She shrieked. I turned to see Ash thrashing in Jeff's grip, kicking leaves and dirt into the potion, which somehow wasn't being absorbed into the soil. The leaves and dirt made the black liquid turn into a bright green, making Meredith scream in anger. The potion was just about to kill us. The potion was supposed to kill us. Now it was doing something else. Ash kept kicking, making the potion turn greener and greener. Jeff finally slit his throat, silencing him. I turned to Meredith, only to find she wasn't there anymore. I felt a strong wind coming. It was getting stronger by the second, and soon we were literally being blown away. I tried to get to the others, but they were too far. Meredith had fled, leaving us three caught in the winds. There was wind coming from behind, but also from in front of me, also coming from right. and left, also crashing into each other, making a very unpleasant feeling rise inside of me. I turned and squinted. The wind was blowing in my eye. I could only imagine what would it be like for Jeff, having no eyelids and all. I could barely I could barely see the other two, being blown in all directions, along with dust, dirt, leaves, and even branches. I tried to stand still, but the wind was too strong, and I saw a branch fly into my face. I was knocked hard onto the ground, but of course, being moved by the fierce wind, the pressure was too much, and I couldn't take it. The last things I heard of the sound of the wind were the two calling my name. I woke up, staring at a blue-gray sky. I sat up, rubbing my eyes when I found out I wasn't in the woods anymore. I looked around to see nothing but hedges. The hedges stretched to about 4 to 5 meters high and looked finely trimmed. I heard nothing but silence, which put me on edge. I stood up looking around me, turning a corner to find only hedges. Ben? I called. Jeff? Jeff! Ben! Hello? Still nothing but silence. I started to get scared, walking faster, turning another corner, finding more hedges leading in different directions. Then realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I was in a maze. Okay, sorry for that's in the chapter, and sorry for probably making any mistakes pronouncing some things, because yeah, sometimes I have trouble with that. And well, hope you enjoy. I'll be making more
Is this our remote?
soon.
It's our remote.
I will be making more.
It's my remote. Yes, it is.
I will be making more
Sharpie.
soon. And
Tell me the remote I got.
oh my god, I'm so sorry. My sister came in again, talking as loud as a mother fudge. And anyway, what I meant to say was, this is the end of the chapter, and I hope you enjoy. Sorry for pronouncing things the wrong way, because I know I have a problem with talking. I have a problem with that stuff, talking out loud and whatnot, talking in different ways. And yeah, and I know, and I've heard your guys' comments saying that I make more and all that. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to make more, and I'm going to add my story that I make called Life. Yes, it's another binge on love story, so check that out. But I didn't put it on yet. It's gonna be later. And now, question. Here's a question for you guys to comment about. Two, actually. What was your favorite part in these two chapters? And question number two is, what is your favorite creepypasta? Okay, comment below, subscribe, and like. And I will make more soon. Yeah. Anyway, bye.